And thank you, Masi, for the introduction. It is an immense pleasure to have all of you today here to know a little bit more about Primosic Winery in Venezia Giulia, and to have a very special tasting in the company of Marco Primosic himself. What I would like to tell you is that the event is interactive. So I'll invite everyone to use the chat function that I see who's in the know already know how to use. So on the chat, if you have any question or you want to comment on anything, please write it on the chat, and myself and the team will address any question, and I can just ask Marco, and this will avoid, obviously everybody talking over each other. We are going to conduct the event following slides, and you will receive the slides as well before the end of the day, together with the recording of the event for you. I hope you all have your wines in your glass. I know that Marco is very passionate about try and avoid to have the wine too cold for their special properties. So without further ado, I think I'm just going to pass the microphone to Marco, and I'm going to guide you through the slides.
Thank you, Bruno, and thank you all guys. Together with Bruno, we have chosen a way of presentation of today, little story about the area and the region, the Collio Hill, the Euslavia, myself and my family. We spent roughly 20 slides about that, but we go very fast because all you guys are trade people, so I prefer that we can spend a little more time to share opinion about the wine and a little less about other things. But if you like have more information or more deep inside some arguments, please do that. We are here for give you all information. Bruno, he know and he helped me. I'm speaking Italian, Slovenian, and German, so my English is born but the US streets, so please don't kill me if I do some very bad things with your language. Please, very sorry for that, but good. I try every day.
You sound just
to do
fine,
my
Marco.
best, and yeah, and now we start. First of all, that's a classical little Japanese style. Every wine family engaged in wine business talk about people, about wine, and about territory. Probably all these three things together sounds like terroir, because the mention of terroir at the end is really the summa of these all three things. And in very Japanese style, where we are located in Friuli Venezia Giulia region. For me and Bruno, just Venezia Giulia. And in a small DOC area named Collio, what Collio means hills. And if Bruno find the map, you can thank you, Bruno.
No problem.
On the red color, you can check our smaller region represent 1.2% of wine production in Italy. The all Friuli Venezia Giulia is a very small niche in Italian production, with a lot of DOC areas, like 10. But at the end, after 20 years, we have one umbrella DOC that's just Friuli DOC, and then some historically DOC areas in the hilly area like Collio and Colli Orientali del Friuli. The Collio is the more eastern part of Friuli Venezia Giulia region, On the eastern part is on the Slovenian border. On the south, you find the Adriatic Sea, and on the north, we have the Alps. This is just to put a little for the guys who know a little less about the Collio, where we are located. Now I introduce myself. My name, like tell Bruno, and thanks to Massimiliano. I'm Marco Primosic. Together with my family, I follow the fathers, grandfathers, and grandfathers tradition. Now we are the fifth generation engaged in winemaking, and right now owned the winery, me, my brother Boris, and my father who is the boss. But I cannot see the slide, Bruno. Next, good, thank you. The Silvan or Silvestro, my father, just enjoy 80 year a week ago. Not
Happy
with
birthday,
a lot
Silvan.
of friends. Yeah, not with a lot of friends, because right now in our region, the COVID put the red color. That means no parties, no restaurants, no any drinks. So that's really very tough time, and special for my father, who really enjoy to do parties. Was very difficult. My brother Boris looks like and works in the winery for administration, logistic, and all the team together with me working in terms of winemaking and wine style. There was so beautiful 2 weeks ago, sitting all together on the round table and test all barrels of our field blend, and that's happened for many years. Really a teamwork. It's not just one member of the family choose. Now there's a lot of words, very big war between different opinion, and at the end we choose which barrels put in the bottle, which barrels have to wait for better time, and which barrel they catch out of the cellar because they don't satisfy what really like put in the bottle.
Let's face it, Marco. Marco is, I think, is the job that everybody here would like to have one day or the other. You're very privileged, I guess.
Yeah, and some really trained people are really welcome if they are in the area for this opportunity, because it's really the beautiful point to understand how a wine born and really how much passion we put for details before the wine is bottled. Sometimes really for very small things we choose, no, that's not, and get. 2 words just about the story, special for the guests that don't know a little the story of our region, of the special of the Collio hilly area, because many times it's a mistake between Austro-Hungarian Empire and Italy. There's the matter of so many jokes about Friuli and Venezia Giulia, because the difference between Friuli and Venezia Giulia, they are 40-50 years. And in terms of some Italian flagship or German oriented, or that's really a local story, but we need to understand a little the story, because the story tells us why the Friuli Venezia Giulia region is special, why the Collio is oriented for white wines, why the Collio put his effort and power and his focus on white wines. It's not only because the climate or the soil, but it's a part of the story. Our region was 400 years under Austro-Hungarian Empire with a heavy Austrian or German influence. And you know, the middle North Europe, they are white wine drinkers like Riesling, Grüner Veltliner, or other grapes, and less red. And that's the matter how in this time before First World War, in the Collio area and the Collio Chieti area, we have planted a lot of grapes, any with German influence, some with French influence, and some local or original grapes, historical grapes varietals like Ribolla Gialla or Tokai Friulano or Red Refosco. The story starts in our family. We don't know what's happened before with Carlo Primosic. Was my grandfather, and on this time, for many years, the works go in the same way. We are producing wine and cherries and some vegetables, and then we provide the wine and the cherries to the importer based on Transalpina. It is the train line between Trieste and Vienna, and they have a big warehouse in Graz. So we supply wine to Graz. And like in modern time now with the beer, on this time with the wine was the same. Put the wine in very small wooden barrels. By train, move the barrels around the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The hub was in Graz, and from Graz supply, so in different cities of the empire, the wine from the Collio area, and was just named Collio wine, and was a field blend. This is the matter because exists today Collio Bianco in Collio area. It's a very old story. It's born with this Vienna tradition to put different grapes together in the same vineyard. Just then in 50s, 60s, the vineyards moving to be specialized just for one variety or variety by variety. If we move to the next, we go very fast. The story, it is that Isonzo is the river on the foot of hill of Oslavia. And this is a terrible story. We are on the first line of the First World War, and all our village in the Gorizia area was completely destroyed in First World War. Our family, we are under Austro-Hungarian Empire, moved from the area for 5 years near Graz and works for the Austrian farmer on this time. And then this happened in 1990, and then they come back in 23, 24, and have to rebuild all things. This means not just a house, no, really is brightened, the hill die. This means have really to replace all there are no stones, no trees, no church, no houses, nothing.
No roots, and all the hill was yellow sulfur apparently because of the bombing. An enormous effort.
3 years non-stop bombing in the area. That was very terrible time. And then they coming back in wooden barracks, restart to first bonify the areas, and then restart to plant the vineyards. And so that's the matter that we are really talking what's happened before First World War and what's happened after the Second World War. On the between was just poor time and nothing. That's the matter of Collio, two phases: restart, rebuild in Italy, and special in 50s, between 50s and 60s was very poor time because we are the northern part of Italy, and Italians are on this time more red drinker, and then don't know so much about white wines from Südtirol or from Friuli Venezia Giulia region. And then we don't have any market. we really survived thanks to Trieste city. But with the economics, they're booming in Italy, La Milano da Bere in 60s, 70s. Thanks special, some iconic things are born this time. Vespa, 500, Milano da Bere, many things are born this time. Silvan, my father, started bottling in 1956. There was really a boy. He lost his grandfather and his father in Second World War, and like child, start to be the only man in the house and have need to grow very, very fast and to keep in his hand the farm and the winery, and start to produce wine. What we're talking to today, on this time, they are modern wine. That means without contact skin, without wood, without any oxidation in negative thing on this time, special from suggestion from the first enologists that came from Conegliano school in the Veneto region. And thanks to Gino Veronelli, there was Italian wine writer that talked about the white wines, and special the promotion of Gino Veronelli that talk about Pinot Grigio at Rai Uno, the national TV in Italy at the evening, and then write on Corriere della Sera, was the guy that moved really the opinion on Italian market. The wine is not like a food, the wine is leisure, and they have to understand the wine, and special red is boring and white, special the Pinot Grigio is cold. And that's what's something magic that put really the open the light on the Collio DOC area. There was our renaissance. If today Collio exists with so beautiful vineyards and with so many small producer and family producer, is really thanks to this time and to Milano city. This gave good power, this good economics things to invest in the vineyard, invest in the cellar, rebuild the cellar, and have the energy to promote the grapes around the world. And then after that, it's what's happened with Pinot Grigio in the US, what we all know, the good and bad things.
Absolutely.
To understand a little about the Collio story.
It was the marketing of time, isn't it? Because of course, Veronelli, you know, we were working a lot over, you know, the newspapers and television at the time, where, you know, the focus is everybody, and the trends were created there and then amplified by the lifestyle stories of the Milano of those times. Absolutely, a fascinating story.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Good. Yeah, 20 years ago.
I didn't want to say it, but you said it, so that's fine. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Just words about the territory. What do the Collio is something special for whites. It's not only the German tradition, but we have the position in the region between Adriatic Sea and Alps, and these two things do something magic together with the Ponca soil to really grow some very beautiful wines special for the whites, because the Adriatic Sea mitigate the climate during the winter. We are just 15 miles from the sea. That means we don't have snow, we don't have to cold climate. But in 30 miles, we have the Alps, and this thing is very important, especially in the summer, special July and August, when they go to the high temperature, because the Alps provide during the night some cold wind with beautiful name Bora, And this wind do a very big changes in temperature between day and night. And this is very important because the plants, they don't fire the malic acidity for the sun of the day. This means provide the wine inside the grapes works, because something we are all thinking that high temperature means better. It's not correct. High temperature under 30 degrees is good. That means that the plants works, but up this temperature, they don't work. They really fire malic acidity inside the grape. And then we talking about overcooked grapes without any balance, without any minerality. And this is very important because during the night, provide this change in temperature and preserve the malic acidity. And this is really what we like. This is the crispness, the crispy note that you can find, and the mineralic note you can find in all Collio wines. One is between this, because we have this beautiful wind. Second is the soil. Our soil is named Ponca. Ponca is the part of our territory. It's a very, very typical soil for the Collio DOC area. It's oceanic origin. It's not volcanic, it's oceanic. They are not hard sandstone with very good drainage. This is the second thing very important. There's not slipping water inside the soil. And special, this kind of soil with stones, but good drainage, permit the old vines put the roots very deep inside the soil. In the Collio region, it's not possible to provide in the summer and help with the water, with irrigation. We don't have this opportunity. This is the second matter. The soil is very important. The roots go very deep in the soil, catch the water, and can work well if we have no rain for a month. It's not so terrible for our region. No needs to help. Of course, it's one of good points between hot and cold vintage. This makes the difference in the wine, but at the end, it is what we like too. And today, at the tasting, we have the chance to test vintage 16, what is quite a hot vintage, and vintage 17, or vintage or a surprise vintage. There are two hottest more coldest vintages, and we have really the chance to test the difference not only of the grapes, but the difference in warmer or colder harvest. Yeah. What they works in terms of skin and what they works in terms of minerality. Good.
I wanted just to ask if there is any question on territory, soil, or on the history, and then I think we can just move to the hottest part of our tasting and start our degustazione. Okay, our wines.
Good. Yeah, our family have a very long and parallel story with the Collio region. So we produce all Collio classics in Collio selection. But today I'm very proud to present the story, the deepest story of Oslavia village. Oslavia is on the top of the hill. It's a village where we are located, but is the village where are born in Italy all orange wine. Are born roughly, that's coming back from the story of our grandparents and starting with between the vintage 99 and 2000. First two guys, wine friends, they're starting to do a long contact with the ski are Stanko Radico and Joško Grauner. our story was with less skin contact before vintage 2003. And I'm so happy so that together me and Stanko Radikon starting to put all producer on the same table, share the experiences with the skin contact fermentation, and arrive with the vintage 2009 to a wine protocol that represent the Oslavia style. So that's a very beautiful goal. Today, all 7 producers in Oslavia are using this protocol with very few points. The points are that we have to harvest hand, late, and without any organic chemicals or herbicide. They don't have to exist in our vineyards. Spontaneous fermentation for all grades with indigenous yeast. No NEAs during the fermentation, no sulfites. No temperature control during the fermentation. After the 4 weeks for Ribolla Gialla, we remove the juice, young wine from the open wooden barrel or amphoras to the big barrel. We don't have to use any French bricks, any French toast food, because we don't like in our indigenous grape this kind of influence. And then the wine have to spend minimum in big wooden barrel 2 years before come to the market. There are really some few points, but very important points.
And I think it's very fascinating. Well, first of all, is that the producers that are working in the same area are working together for a common objective, and especially with Radikon, you've been able to sort of find these and Graf, you've been able to find these sort of balance. But also, I think if I remember right, you telling me there was also the process for which you were in the first 10 years of production of the second generation skin wine.
Yeah,
there was quite a lot of work of
right
assessing. Of assessing. So you want to tell us about this? Because I think it's quite important.
Good. Could be for the trade people something not so comfortable, because really the producer share the pioneeristic part of skin fermented wine with the customer. Some people are very critical about the producer because they this experimental pioneeristic part at the end was sold. The bottle are sold. That means was not a work inside the cellar, but what was the work with the market. And that's what's happened, that every vintage we have just one harvest a year. Different producers are trying different
approaches,
the different approach, and special different timing with contact with skin. We arrive in Oslavia, different producer, to 1 year in contact with skin, and there was in 2003, 2004, 2005. But what we understand, the knowledge today about so long contact with skin, it is that dominate not more the yeast, the process, because that's finished roughly in 1 month. Then start different kind of bacteria to work on the skin, some producing volatile acidity, but then especially with very, very long time in contact with skin, it is correct that the wine is oxidate, but not so crazy, because the skin protect the oxidation, are catalysator of oxygen. And so they really protect without any aids the wine. But the bacteria are working on terms of acidity, on terms of phenolic notes. They degrade and destroy a lot of things. So after, for this I talk about first and second generation orange wine. It's just happened that in many these wineries in Oslavia, it is the second generation too inside the winery. So they are the sons of the fathers today in the wineries, but it's nothing to do with the wine. The second generation wine start roughly between vintage 2008 and 2010 for mostly producer. They recognize that need to be more focused on the first time of contact with skin, and it is something between 1 and 3 months. Over 3 months, the risico is too high to spend the time with bacters, and probably you don't catch more good things, and less, especially if I talk for Ribolla Gialla only, less amount. It's not the time that we catch from the skin all good things. So at the end, the knowledge today, it is 1 to 3 months, protect the wine for too heavy volatile acidity. If normal, that increase, but have to be beautiful balance with the wine. And second, and there's no less thing, use very clean and beautiful wood, no Brettanomyces, not influence, negative influence from the wood. And we need, and there was not in the pioneeristic time, a little add sulfites at bottling. The first time the idea was bottling wine without any
adding sulfites.
Without any sulfites. Yes. And then happened that many bottles arrived to the market, or special if they are open in beautiful restaurants at the evening and they are pouring the glass the next day, probably the wine of the next day are vinegar, and then increase so a bad reputation or increase some critics and put really this fan club. I love orange, I really don't like orange. There
is a balance to be reached.
Yeah, this is the cost of this experience. This kind of wine have some good fans and some that really don't like, but they who don't like, I suggest retest the second generation orange, because today is quasi impossible to find the wine, what happened in the first 10-year experience. At the end, today we are in the year 2021. That means that in totally, all producers together, they have each just 20 experiences. There's not a lot. And the first 10 experience was really to understand the right way, affinate the style, and at the end, with the old vintages that coming to the market, that means that just 3 or 4 vintages are on the market of second generation orange wine, because you have today 13, 14, 15, not the 20 on the market. So we are in 21, but the wine talking about 16 vintage, 17 vintage. This means just 4 or 5 vintages after the 2010.
The fine tuning.
What is for me the point really of increase the knowledge about the skin fermented grapes. Good. This is just a point to understand, and now I would like start the test together
with the Friulano.
We have 2 indigenous, and Pinot Grigio is at home for many centuries in Friuli Venezia Giulia. I choose the way of testing first Friulano, second Pinot Grigio, and then the last 2 Ribolla Gialla, because we have 2 vintages of Ribolla Gialla, and would like you are more focused on the 2 vintages and not have the last Pinot Grigio. I think that this a good way, Friulano, Pinot Grigio, and then Ribolla. Good. Friulano grape, no need to spend many words. It is at home in Friuli Venezia Giulia region. Our Friulano 2060, it is a Friulano born in a hot vintage. That means with good alcohol, a little less acidity, a very beautiful skin, sunny, very well ripened skin. And then we choose 2 weeks skin contact for Friulano because we
Marco, is 2 weeks the minimum for the skin contact, or what's the minimum amount of time that you spend on the skin?
For Ribolla Giolla, it is 4 weeks minimum by rules in Yugoslavia, but they are rules only for Ribolla Giolla grape.
Okay.
We choose 2 weeks for Friulano because we would like, with this grape, preserve a little some aromatics, some keywords in terms of aroma of Friulano, and catch the skin, from the skin, some phenolic notes. But at the end, we would like to have a beautiful pairing between aromas and phenolic notes. It's a very diplomatic orange wine. Our opinion it is that Friulano is quite a first step for consumer to understand a little more about the skin contact wines. It's more give really by hand the consumer in this world, and give him some points of memory from the classic wines and some new things from the skin. So for me, it is really wine that is first step inside the skin, inside the orange. I'm very fascinated about the vintage 16 because the wine is magic balance. At the nose we have some roses, some flowers, then really some phenolic notes that came from the skin. But the wine at the nose is very balanced. It's not so heavy in the color because just 2 weeks in contact with skin, then don't catch so much color. And at the end, preserve a little the acidity because we don't fire all malolactic, don't do completely the malolactic fermentation in 2 weeks. And so at the end, wine is much more balanced, much more approachable, much more drinkable, not so extreme. We have some mild notes. We have this beautiful almonds, but not green almonds. That's typical in Friulano. The vintage 16 was so beautiful. We have a beautiful sunny, an elegant almonds, elegant finish with like just a small bitterness, not too heavy. And what I appreciate of this Friulano, it is you can test the wine with food or without food. My opinion it is that this Friulano is born to be with food, special with some fried, really all orange love a little the fatness of the food, but with a very beautiful elegance, very beautiful balance. For me, it's quite a key opener for the orange wine world, especially for the who are not really the wine connoisseur of natural wine or really the fan of natural wine. It's really to move a little the customer that would understand a little more about this world and without too heavy volatile acidity or too heavy things. So like I tell you, so very diplomatic balance and elegant.
Very diplomatic. And I will say absolutely is a stepping stone for you to get into the world of orange wines. What I really would like to say, in my opinion, is that the nuttiness, this sort of bitterness that we call nuttiness in the UK, is more consumer friendly for when we need to describe the wine to our customers, is sort of amplified by the process. While sometimes you find in skin contact wine that you add up different characteristics, this seem to amplify what the character of the Friulano is to start with.
Correct. Special, the bitterness, it is one of keywords that you find every time in the Friulano. It is the almond green bitterness is the keyword, and is the matter for the fan of Friulano or for not. Really, with this beautiful vintage and the contact with skin, manage a little this green bitterness to a more sunny notes, to more warm notes, and that's really an upgrade in terms of Friulano grape to more important test. I don't know who's right, but yeah, please, all this wine have to be tested. So room temperature, like reds. If you have put in they are chilly cold or in fridge, use your hands to increase the temperature.
To warm it up.
Yeah, the best temperature is 15 and up. So not 5 or 10. You really kill the wine sit down, and special with the skin. The volatile notes come out, and the warm notes of the alcohol sleeping inside the glass. At the end, you have perception of rustic notes, and they are not balanced with the elegant notes. So please, if it's cold, warm up the glass, wait a little more, and retest the wine.
We really made our effort to write in every way possible on the instructions and at the beginning of the event. Yeah. But it's a good discovery, absolutely, just to work on the temperature as well, which is great. Pinot Grigio. Now we find a color that is quite characteristic.
Yeah, we moved the Pinot Grigio. For me, the Pinot Grigio, good. The picture told you 90% of why, and because this wine have this magic, beautiful color. What is for me the gamble to present the skin Pinot Grigio around the world? It is the wow effect, because many people, trade people too, talking about Pinot Grigio, easy, industrial wine, without body, without power, easy to drink, without color, without any story. Just please, how many pounds cost a bottle and finish. Good. It's not so. Pinot Grigio is probably the best grape in terms of power that we have in the hilly area. It is the best grape that every vintage, if it's not too rainy season, ripeness correct and is overripe and really with some elegant power, and special is all things but not boring. You just have to find old vines, a beautiful ponca soil, less yield, and put this beautiful grape, a juicy grape in wooden bottle. In this case, just a week. Pinot Grigio have so teeny skin that after 1 week inside wooden bottle, you don't find nothing. That's juice and skin are totally just one.
Wow.
And catch, of course, some anthocan. This means the color. And that's beautiful, amazing, beautiful color, and special from the skin catch. Really, that's for me the keyword of Pinot Grigio. It's the apricot. If you test and have the chance to test the apricot, beautiful sweetie apricot or wild apricot by grandparents in farm. You can see the sweetness and bitterness together. The sweetness and aroma of apricot and bitterness of the skin of apricot. These two things together are the keyword for the Pinot Grigio. Beautiful power, the warm notes of the alcohol, this beautiful apricot bitterness, and follow all things, the start, the aroma on the nose, the take with your hand and your mouth to the body, and then this elegant acidity and bitterness clean your mouth at the end. Vintage 17, it's a cold vintage, but Pinot Grigio is so beautiful grape that ripeness every year, so it's not the matter. For me, the 15 was the first vintage, was over ripened, just 3.8 acidity. We have here 5.5. That means it's much more balanced. The 17, that means over ripened grape put in the glass, much better wine if it's a little more colder vintage, because preserve a little the acidity, and Pinot Grigio need a little acidity. If not, it's too much over body. It's a little sitting down in the glass, a little much marmalade. That's really what I don't like. For me, all wines are born to pair some food. It's beautiful. They are good alone in the glass, but in my mind, they are really they are born to be tested with some beautiful food.
Food, absolutely. And on the notes, I love the hints of red fruits in here as well. Is it strictly related, obviously, on the skin contact, and also this how would I say, the minerality that comes out. It is really a standalone wine. It is you know, a league of his own, because he has reminiscence, you know, obviously due to the phenolic notes. He has reminiscence of red fruits, I would say light red fruits or anything. But the minerality is outstanding.
For me, it's we are talking about Ponca wine. That's really, you find this richness in terms of stone, in terms of iron test. All wine, they're coming from soil, they're rich in minerals and rich in iron. We can find then in a glass this dry minerality. It's not iodic minerality like in Burgundy. It's a little more not so salty, but you can find this richness of minerals that are typical for Collio soil.
Very unique. Alcohol percentage 14.5.
It's not the highest. This means cold vintage. The 15 was 15.8.
Wow.
Good. The Pinot Grigio have with less yield, old vines, crazy power. Good. The alcohol is one of points. So I prefer cold vintages because are much more balanced, but none exist as skin Pinot Grigio less at 14.5.
But still
different story for Ribolla Gialla. It's balanced because the bitterness from the skin, that means the phenolic notes, together with acidity, balance the alcohol. The skin fermentation increase the quantity of tannin like a red, and then at the end we have much more balance with high alcohol, with some phenolic notes and acidity. Just one thing that happened in all orange wines, if we put the nose on the glass, because the fermentation without temper control, the perception every time, if you test a Ribolla with 12.5% alcohol, is the alcohol is high. It's like if you test sherry or Porto, they are all wine, they are born oxidative style a little. The perception of warm notes is higher. And then we test wine not cold, so really the alcohol come out a little more easier. And so at the end, the idea it is that the alcohol is higher or much higher what is written on label. Yeah, it's just on perception.
Absolutely. We have a question for you. Can you tell me how you reach this high level of acidity having overripe grape and high alcohol levels?
It's the matter of the balance. Does not happen with every grapes. Happen just old vines, less yield in the best positioning in the vine garden. That means it is ripened but not over ripened, and with so less yield. That means that the grape are in balance. It's not follow the alcohol. Special for all orange wine, we follow the skin. For us, it's important that the skin, that we have the phenolic ripeness, like do the producer of Pinot Noir. They are not following sugars, but they are following the phenolic ripeness. If not, you test so this grassy green Pinot Noir that we don't like. And this means the same we do with all orange wine. We follow the skin ripeness, and it's good.
Deserving
is something special. For example, if I tell you guys the numbers of vintage 15 was 15.8 alcohol and 3.8 acidity.
Wow.
So in this case, the number are really unbalanced. But if you have the chance to retest the wine vintage 15, the phenolic notes of skin balance completely the spur acidity in terms of numbers. The wine is completely balanced, quasi 16% alcohol and just 3.8 acidity. But the wine is not a ball of sweetness. It's really balanced. This is a little the magic of the phenolic notes of the skin and the wood.
It is, after all, a Riserva on the label. So a selection and just particular vines and the best positioning. And these allow to achieve this high level of acidity, even with overripe grape and high alcoholic level. And I hope this answers Antonio's question. Should we move on to outstanding wine? Should we move on to Ribolla? You've been a evangelist of Ribolla since I've known you, and we're talking about 2 figures years. I always remember you on a yellow suit in the middle of the wine fair. Here we go. Think Yellow was your what are you telling us about you and the promotion of Ribolla?
I have some customer around the world that talking to me, oh, it's coming Yellow Man. That's awesome.
The Yellow Man, like a Teletubbies or something.
Yeah. No, that's the main really. Ribolla Gialla is the grape of Collio, represent the Collio hilly area on both sides, Slovenian and Italian side. It's our indigenous grape. It's part of our story. I have written, read and heard so many stories about this grape, but at the end arrived to my idea, but it's not only mine, it's really at home in Oslavia. We have so different grapes. They are arrived with different stories, special from nobility. The family Latour takes some grapes. They are moving for phylloxera from Western Europe to Eastern Europe. In direction of Eastern Europe, they arrive in Capriva del Friuli at today Villa Rusic, and they plant some French vines and remain here grapes like Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Bianco, Pinot Grigio, the Pinot family. The same under Austro-Hungarian Empire and Klosterneuburg school near Vienna arrive here. Miller-Thurgau, Grüner, Miller-Thurgau, Traminer Aromatico, Rhine Riesling, Riesling Italico. So many grapes with German influence. At the end, we have just like farmer that's not from German nobility, not from French nobility, our Ribolla Gialla. So at the end, we are really falling in love with this grape because it represents probably the story of simply farmer with a big bunch. Every producer that work in the vineyards, really people that are hardworking hand with hands inside the vineyard, talking for the love of this grape, for his beauty. All grapes producing wine, they are small, with small bunch, with small grapes, green color or a red color, but not golden color. So Ribolla Gialla has a very big bunch. You know that for the farmer, big fruits means richness. It's like the sun at the morning. And then if you see really at the harvest, the Ribolla Gialla grape is the most beautiful grape that you can see. You can eat. It's the only one that you can eat. Special. If you are talking with my father, like children,
yeah, absolutely.
they don't have any chance to have some good sweetness. The bonbons, if we are talking, they are just in this poor time. Over-ripened Ribolla Gialla for Christmas time, like Cibibo, and there really you can eat the sweetness with this beautiful amber fruits. There was really the something special that in this difficult time was really something to surprise. And this love for this grape starts so in the vineyard, really from this big bunch and this unique golden color of the grapes. Of course, Ribolla Gialla, because his big bunch is so rich in terms of water, in terms of juice. And this is the matter that are not DOC wine for many, many years. If the Collio are born in 64, the Ribolla Gialla was not provided with the DOC because the idea was that it's not an important grape. And just the village of Oslavia continue insist to promote Ribolla Gialla and my family too. And just thanks to Chardonnay, they arrived in our region in 1992. The Collio DOC changed the rules to put inside the rules the Chardonnay grape. And then few producers from Australia tell, good, take this opportunity, give us a gift. We would like that with this change of bureaucracy, we would like have our Ribolla Gialla DOC Collio. So thanks to Chardonnay, Ribolla Gialla just in 92 became the DOC Collio because it was not the grape of novelty. It was really grape of the farmer. But we in Oslavia are all farmer. We love our Ribolla Gialla, and we do our best to promote this grape around the world. We're starting to do this like a still fermented, easy summer wine. It's a fantastic wine for the summer. You can drink 3 bottles with some shrimps at the sea. But we have understand the richness and the complexity of this wine. It is in the skin, without skin, and with very natural way, with this beautiful skin, what is really the power of Ribolla, because the skin protect the grape in the vineyard. Is the last grape that is taken from the vineyard, is the last the harvest after the reds. That they arrive in October. We start Pinot Grigio end of August or first week in September. After the Merlot, we harvest the Ribolla Gialla and then start his process in this, you can see in the picture, in small barrels. There are many opinions about the fermentation contact with the skin of Ribolla Gialla. Our recipe is to using very small barrels so that we don't have so big quantity. There are just 300 liters juice and skin inside the barrels. And we pump inside with hands, put the skin inside the juice 10, 11, 12 times a day during the fermentation, that we move a lot of CO2 outside the barrels. And this is the only natural way a little to manage the temperature of fermentation. Don't fire completely aromas. Don't stop the work of the yeast, because the yeast are working to a point of temperature of fermentation. If it's too higher, they stop fermented and then start bacteria. The bacteria, they are working
Bacteria,
for all temperatures. More higher is bacteria, is not, bacteria works, and then mean you increase the volatile acidity and you don't have any fermentation. And then after the malo fermentation, you have the high perception of volatile acidity. With this small barrels, we can manage much better, with much work, but much better the temperature, and we can control the dryness of the skin that is not overcooked, because they are small quantities. And this is our recipe to manage a little the fermentation in very natural way. There's a lot of handworks, but it's our way to do that. In similar way works amphoras, because the amphoras are inside the soil, take a lot of time to increase the temperature of massive quantity of soil. And at the start, they protect the increasing of temperature, and then for the second part of fermentation, do completely the reverse and give back the temperature to maintain the malo fermentation. That's the good things of amphoras, what we can tell about this. Vintages. Now I suggest really, if you have two glasses in front of you, to put both Ribolla in the glass. And then I tell the story about both. The grape coming from the same vineyard are harvested quite in the same way, are fermented in same barrels. So at the end, the difference between these two Ribolla is the vintage. 16 hot vintage, the next is a cold vintage, and just a little difference in terms of contact with skin. 16, it is fermented 4 weeks, and the other 1 week more. So that
are you ever gonna tell us which vintage it is?
Yeah, who find the vintage win a holiday for 2 persons in Grado Beach, and
you know it.
You are a candidate.
Okay, I got it.
No, it's very important that you really have in front of you. For me, it's very important. Same grape, same winemaking protocol, and same philosophy. This means it's really the balance between cold and hot harvest.
In the production method, I can see that the aging on the lees is longer for the Ribolla. Is there any technical reason for this, or it is because you wanted to produce something?
No, it is because after first it's a question of the grape. Ribolla Gialla, it's more dry, more on tea notes, tobacco notes. It's like a Barbaresco, means take time. With very long contact with skin, catch a lot of phenolic notes from the skin, and that means that to manage this phenolic perception, have to spend much more time inside the barrels. Really less like 2 it's minimum. So really, we need to manage a lot of phenolics, the stannic perception.
Round it up.
Really
Yeah.
time. Yes. I have to spend time inside the barrel.
Oh, we start having bets on the special vintage. We have a 2018, a 17, and a 2009. Sonia's asking if she can enter the Olive competition. I will say absolutely not.
Yeah, I'd be very happy if being the 2009, because 2009 was our first vintage with the protocol, Oslavia protocol. But I'm so sorry. I have just 3 Magnum in the cellar of vintage 09, so it's not 09.
I think I've been lucky enough on one Balan day to try with you, Nicola, and Silvan, the 2009. We would have loved to have 2009, Francesco. I can guarantee you. Then 14, he said, okay, 2009 is no good. 2015 for the surprise. Another 2015 is the favorite. Oh, I can see the games going on in here. Everybody woke up with the promise of a holiday. Here we go.
Yeah. What is interesting, it is that the 16 vintage, the malolactic works less, because we don't have a lot of malic acidity because the vintage was so hot. The no vintage has a heavy malolactic, so works much more the malobacters. So the works different at the nose too. And in terms of body, in the 16, we find more warm notes from the sunny year. So it's based on a beautiful body, more round body. The no vintage, it's a little more cold vintage. And you can find much more phenolic notes in the no vintage. For me, it was very important to give you this opportunity to check these 2 things, because in 16, we can see like Friulano, more balanced wine with more complexity. But so the trust in skin fermentation, the really real notes from the skin fermentation, what's happened with the skin, you can find much better in the no vintage. What do you think, Bruno? It's time to explain which kind of vintage is?
No, I think we should just wait another 10 minutes, just for the fun of it. I'm gonna talk about depth. Is an odd word to use in wine tasting, but there is a sort of depth in the non-vintage, in the vintage that we don't know. There is a sort of maturity. There are a little wider, sort of it's like velvety notes and more. You know, I can actually the influence of the skin contact, I can feel it nearly a little bit more on the non-vintage than the 2016. I can see the notes of the 2016 are still greenish compared to the other ones, but at the same time, quite the texture is what really makes the difference for me.
For me, the 16 is a baby, really baby. They have in front another 10 years time to work, to evolve, to put outside more this evolution of skin notes. For me, 16 is really a baby.
Any more takers on the, let's have a look. Okay, more coming in. 2015, we got quite a lot of votes for 2015. Come on, Marco, tell us.
Yeah, I understand, because the 15 was a similar year of what is our not vintage. It was cold and balanced. Oh, who is the winner?
Cosimo.
Is Cosimo.
That doesn't count for sure.
2011.
Come here.
2011, it is the no vintage Ribolla, it's the vintage 2011. And I'm so excited with this vintage because 11 was a very difficult vintage. The climate was not so perfect, was not so right season to produce a very high level wine, and really for me what we can find at the end of this heavy work with the vintage 11, I was really surprised, and yeah, was really fall in love with the vintage, special because it's very representative of what Ribolla Gialla di Oslavia is. So phenolic notes, not heavy, beautiful balance. The 16 put the alcohol higher because we have so beautiful summer. But Ribolla Gialla, it's more typical in 15, in 13, in 11. And second things was, I would like share with you a little Ribolla Gialla, roughly 10 years old. And it's a baby too, so that's a wine that we are in 21, there's an 11, and you can really check and test that's not old wine in the glass. The wine has his acidity, his freshness for this style of wine, yeah. And a beautiful tannin, this elegant phenolic notes. That mean many people, special trade people asking me, which is the shell life of orange organic wine without sulfites or so poor in sulfites? Good. You have tested today, the wine have 10 years, and I think that it's the middle of his life. So that okay, it's not Amarone of Barolo, but so the curve of the crazing of the life of this wine, so it's not so fast, take time. And this means skin fermented Ribolla Gialla in the right way. It is a wine that can us surprise so in between 20 years.
That is amazing. There was a question on that, but as the question arrived, you answered to it, which is very good of you, Marco. Thank you very much. And I think with this, let's have a look. I just inviting anyone for more questions. And I think we are at the end of it. If there is anything else, I would really love, I really like to thank, first of all, Masi and the team of 4510 for organizing and supporting this tasting. All of you who took part, of course, and especially Marco for bringing to life a story worth talking about. And we had some amazing wine. There will be a follow-up from this tasting, so you will hear directly